A young woman fell from a great height, but upon impact, her body left no trace of blood. Instead, it shattered into powder like plaster. Onlookers gathered, unfazed by the spectacle, because in this world, there's an outbreak of a virus called Medusa. Those infected would gradually petrify within 12 hours, with a mortality rate of 100%, and no known cure to control its spread. Soon, nearly half of the people on Earth were infected, plunging the globe into chaos. Many nations lay paralyzed. To safeguard human civilization from annihilation, a biotech corporation named Venus unveiled a human preservation initiative. Leading this effort was Vega, the CEO of Venus Group. They resolved to select 160 volunteers worldwide for voluntary cold sleep, placing humanity's survival hope in future medical technologies. The cold sleep duration spanned 100 years. Should humanity face extinction after this period, these 160 individuals would become the torchbearers of human civilization's continuity. To ensure fairness, the selection of these 160 individuals was determined by a lottery. Today's protagonist, Kasumi, was fortunate to be chosen out of 8 billion people. These people were sent to a castle-like research base. Before commencing cold sleep, Vega equipped each of them with a bracelet capable of detecting the Medusa Virus. If an infection was detected, the bracelet would display black spots. Throughout their cold sleep, the entire research facility's operations would be overseen by an artificial intelligence named Alice, so that even if all humans are destroyed, cold sleepers in the base will not be affected in any way. Once all preparations were complete, the 160 individuals donned specially tailored attire and entered the cold sleep capsules. Kasumi was assigned to the topmost capsule. As the temperature within the capsule plummeted, she swiftly drifted into a deep slumber. In her dreams, she encountered her twin sister, Shizuku, who implored her to persevere and survive. After an unknown period had passed, when Kasumi opened her eyes once more, she found her capsule inexplicably opened. She subconsciously reached for her glasses, but the spikes cut her palm. Only then did she realize that the entire research facility was covered in countless massive thorns. Just at that moment, all 160 cold sleep capsules popped open, awakening everyone inside. The eerie sight unsettled the individuals, and the loss of communication with the outside world plunged them into panic. Meanwhile, as Kasumi prepared to exit her sleep pod, a strange bird flew towards her, its sharp teeth bared to attack. They followed Kasumi's finger and discovered that the base's ceiling was the nesting ground for these monsters. The next instant, the creatures descended upon the group with bloodthirsty fangs, mercilessly tearing into the survivors. The survivors desperately fled to the elevator, although the elevator door opened, but what came after was a dark elevator shaft. And below the elevator shaft, there was a monstrous entity with a hideous giant mouth, devouring these humans. Kasumi and the other survivors pulled up the old man who hadn't fallen. However, as the elevator doors began to close, the monster's tentacles reached out, instantly claiming 2 lives in their grasp. At that moment, the creatures abruptly dispersed, granting the survivors a brief respite. There were only 7 survivors left out of the original 160 people. After some communication, they decided that their first task was to go back to the ground, escape from the castle, so they started to move immediately. The dark corridors are filled with thorns. It was like a passageway to hell. But they didn't realize a colossal eye was watching their every move. Their escape route was blocked by a dark river. At this moment, several drops of liquid caught everyone's attention. It was the monster's saliva. The old man was seized by the monster, which swiftly bit down on him, then spat out its tongue, instantly severing the old man's head. The horrifying sight sent the group fleeing in terror. However, Timothy, a boy in the group, urged them not to run. He seemed to understand the creature well. Timothy explained that the monster's eyes were almost blind. It can only tell where it is by hearing. He assured them that staying quiet would keep them safe. Despite Timothy's words, the others did not believe him. Owen grabbed the boy and tossed him into the water, leading the rest to jump into the swift river. This risky move allowed them to narrowly escape disaster. Yet, an unexpected event unfolded. Due to her lack of swimming skills, Kasumi fainted in the passageway. Owen immediately turned back to rescue her. Among a group of strange fish, he found Kasumi unconscious and successfully brought her back to safety. But the crisis returned. The familiar sound of dripping saliva echoed once more. Looking up, they saw the room's ceiling crawling with monsters. In a critical moment, they scrambled into a protective door. However, due to a large gap, the monsters quickly followed inside. Fortunately, it was the security room. Everyone picked up guns to fight back. Despite the monsters' tough hides, they couldn't withstand the barrage of bullets. Just as they relaxed their guard, the monster suddenly attacked Portman. But in the end, they finally survived the crisis without any danger. As the group rested, Owen suddenly aimed his gun at Peter. Before entering cold sleep, everyone's personal belongings had been confiscated. Seeing Peter wearing a necklace now hinted at a hidden identity. With his cover blown, Peter held Kasumi at gunpoint and left the room in the elevator. The rest of the group arrived at the control room and armed themselves with some guns. However, when they checked the date on the computer, they were shocked to realize that only 48 hours had passed since they entered the cold sleep capsules to sleep and wake up. Despite numerous questions, they now had to escape quickly. They tried to move silently past the monsters, but a sudden jolt caused Catherine to involuntarily scream, alerting all the monsters. Faced with this crisis, Owen immediately shot at a fuel tank, triggering a violent explosion that unleashed fierce flames. Meanwhile, as Kasumi woke up again, she found herself in a laboratory filled with the remains of numerous monsters. To her shock, she discovered that their awakening was orchestrated by Peter and Owen. Peter turned out to be the inventor of the cold sleep capsules, and the reason he did it was to find out the truth about the Medusa Virus. He also found evidence that the Medusa Virus came from Venus's bio company. Just then, a monster discovered them. In a critical moment, Peter saved Kasumi but found himself in danger. He handed the memory card to Kasumi, revealing that it contained all the data on the Medusa Virus. With Owen's help, they managed to escape and reunited with other survivors. They sought refuge in a temporarily safe wine cellar. Owen finally disclosed his true identity. He was actually a military personnel. The military suspected that the Venus group was behind everything and had sent him for a secret investigation to find a cure for the virus. However, at this very moment, the CEO of Venus, Vega, also arrived here. Facing everyone's angry questioning, he had no choice but to reveal the entire truth. It turned out that Medusa was not a virus but a mysterious substance from aliens that bestowed evolutionary gifts upon humanity. However, human bodies couldn't withstand this enigmatic material. 8 years ago, a meteorite struck the Earth, and the result was not long ago. All the villagers in the neighborhood were petrified and died. Only a little girl survived. Vega, who was a high-ranking official at the time, was tasked with investigating. In the village, he was attacked by a peculiar creature. At first, the soldiers thought it was an alien creature. It was later discovered that the creature was a manifestation of the young girl's imagination. In fact, the girl had the ability to materialize her fantasies into reality through a certain medium, a power brought by the meteorite, which was the Medusa Virus. To verify this theory, Vega brought the girl back to the base for research and gradually uncovered the secrets of Medusa. The Medusa Virus was a cosmic organism existing long before human birth. It can force humans to evolve, but ordinary humans can't withstand it. Eventually, they can only turn into stone and die. However, the girl survived and perfectly merged with the virus, transcending humanity. Vega, desiring this power, conducted brutal experiments on the girl daily but with no progress. And the girl's mental strength began to continuously expand, even showing signs of collapse. So Vega selected 160 humans to share the girl's powerful mental energy together. This method proved effective as the girl's energy fluctuations were at an all-time high. However, just as the experiment seemed successful, an unforeseen event occurred. A being with a higher mental energy dimension stole the girl's consciousness, and her mental energy began to erupt. Her cells underwent infinite fission, mutating into massive thorns and numerous monsters, annihilating everything in an instant. After recounting this, burdened by guilt, Vega chose to end his life. Just then, massive thorns suddenly emerged from the ground. Everyone immediately fled towards the passage but was unexpectedly ambushed by a horrifying monster halfway through. Owen rushed forward with his gun to buy time for the others to escape. However, in the midst of chaos, Owen forgot to change the ammunition and engaged the monster in close combat. It became apparent that Owen was no match for the creature, and he was quickly overpowered. In a critical moment, Portman thrust his sword through the monster's head, saving Owen. However, he succumbed to the virus after being contaminated by the monster's blood. Meanwhile, the thorns continued to grow wildly, causing seawater to surge in, blocking their path. Kasumi fell into despair as the situation worsened. Just then, Owen, who had narrowly escaped death, emerged from the water and rejoined the group. As the water level rose rapidly, they realized their only escape was to jump into the whirlpool. Desperately clinging to broken stakes, they managed to prevent being dragged underwater by the vortex and narrowly escaped. Upon reaching the outside, they finally saw the full extent of the castle. What was once a magnificent structure was now entirely covered in dense thorns, with countless guard bodies haphazardly hanging from them. The 4 survivors were about to fly a helicopter to escape, but a video camera caught Kasumi's attention. To her shock, the video showed her sister Shizuku lying in agony on a stretcher, seemingly undergoing some kind of mutation. Kasumi ran like crazy towards the castle. At this moment, Kasumi suddenly realized that the entity consuming the consciousness of the little girl was likely her sister, Shizuku, and the thorns and monsters in this ancient castle were created by Shizuku after awakening her powers. Owen wanted to stop her at this point, but it was already too late. As Kasumi approached the ancient castle, massive thorns erupted violently, swirling furiously in the air, transforming into a gigantic monster in an instant. Owen initiated the helicopter to rescue Kasumi, but Catherine, holding a gun, threatened him to quickly fly away from there. However, at that moment, a thick thorn directly struck the helicopter, hurling Owen out, causing him to fall into the castle and reunite with Kasumi. Unfortunately, Catherine got infected by the virus and turned into stone, leaving Timothy as the sole survivor. Meanwhile, Kasumi and Owen swiftly ascended to the upper levels of the castle, eventually reaching the control room at the top. Upon entering, they each entered their own illusionary realms. Owen unexpectedly encountered his long-deceased sister Laura, who immediately launched a fierce attack, leaving Owen defenseless. At that moment, Owen suddenly raised his pistol, aimed at his neck and pulled the trigger, because there was a chip implanted in his neck. And sure enough, as the chip shattered, Owen's illusion shattered as well. Laura was now a tangled mass of thorns. Owen deactivated Alice. Kasumi also regained consciousness. Subsequently, she finally confronted her covered-in-thorns sister, Shizuku, whose body had perished, but her consciousness had not dissipated. When she saw the scar on Shizuku's hand, she instantly remembered everything. It turned out that Kasumi had died long before the virus outbreak. Unable to accept her sister's death, Shizuku's mind collapsed. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Shizuku's body merged perfectly with the Medusa Virus, consuming the spiritual energy of the little girl. She then used this extraordinary power to create the current Kasumi and alter her memories. Shizuku aimed to craft a perfect world solely for Kasumi, and the 6 survivors who had miraculously survived alongside Kasumi in the beginning were also carefully arranged by Shizuku. They can protect Kasumi while also teaching her to bravely face various dangers. However, when Shizuku had completed all of this, she found that she had lost control of her consciousness and was dissipating continuously. In the end, Shizuku advised Kasumi to live well. As she spoke, Shizuku began to disintegrate, using her last bit of strength to send Kasumi away. As they both plummeted from a height, countless thorns suddenly emerged, forming a massive web to catch them. Sunlight pierced through the clouds, and the seaside breeze comforted the 2 survivors after the ordeal. The scattered ruins bore witness that this was no dream. The valiant warrior had perished, his life concluded. Finally, Kasumi embarked on the journey home with the young boy. The winding and tortuous road is akin to a life full of thorns and twists. Although filled with spikes and turns, there will come a day when the flower that belongs to you will surely bloom. What are your thoughts on this anime? Share them in the comments below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this explanation, and subscribe for more.